Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished and senior professional from New York, USA, Michele Phillips. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Michele is an award-winning author, a keynote speaker, a corporate workshop leader, and a coach. She's a founder specializing in increasing happiness and individual performance in the workplace. And she's an author, and all of you know, I'm always very partial to authors. So she's an author of a book titled Happiness is a Habit, Simple Daily Rituals that Increase Energy, Improve Well-being, and Add Joy to Every Day. And we will talk about her book as well. So Michele, before we talk about the power of small habits and all the things that you're doing, tell me about your own journey in brief.
In brief. It started, when I was young in my 20s. I just wanted to be fit. And I had poor eating habits, and I was a young girl with, not eating for days, and then just it wasn't healthy. So I just started learning how to eat and how to work out. And I probably went to the gym for a year before I saw any result.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the birth of the habits. You have to be smart enough to know when you're doing something every day, you might not be seeing the results you want, but you have to be smart enough to know the result will come.
Mm.
And once the result came, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm learning how to eat. I'm learning how to exercise. I feel good in my body. Then it was like, what else can I do? So then I led that to my, my physical habits. Then it was my mental habits, reading. I started just voraciously reading everything I could get my hands on to teach me how to be more successful, be a better person. We were talking, Ash, before we got on, there's the books are out there. The knowledge is out there, right? The podcasts are out there. It's a matter of ingesting them and using them. So little by little, I was creating these habits because I was just so hungry and I was getting results. And then when my marriage unfortunately fell apart, my first marriage, and what I realized was the habits I had created mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally kept me sound. It wasn't that my heart wasn't broken. It wasn't that I was I was still going through a very hard time, but I realized the habits, something can go wrong in your life in one area, and it doesn't have to affect the other areas if you don't let it. So my support system, the music I listened to, the books I was reading, all these things became the impetus for my Happiness is a Habit book.
Oh, wonderful. And, when I was preparing for this conversation and reading about you, I also got the impression that there is a neuroscience behind small habits. Tell me a little bit more and how small habits have such a powerful impact on our lives.
Yeah, what's so nice is the research now in emotional intelligence, positive psychology, neuroscience. You have people like Jill Bolte Taylor, who wrote My Stroke of Insight. And I was listening to your podcast with Swami G, and he was talking about Martin Seligman out of the University of Pennsylvania. What's so nice about this is, before we'd say think positive and do these things, and now there's a body of research that literally has proven if you do something for yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally on a regular basis, you feel better. And I like to tell my clients, you could take a walk in the woods with a loved one and you hit all four. So it's not that you have to do four different things, right? So there is this brain, I call it the brain heart. It's like brain, heart, gut, right? Or the chakras, all we are connected to everything, to the earth. We are in a relationship with everything. And when people prove this to themselves, I feel like that's when the mastery begins. And you start to see that the way you're thinking and how you're feeling has, makes a difference.
Yeah, well said. So let's talk about the power of small habits. Let me start by asking you, what are some foundational small habits that you would recommend to anyone to start their overall well-being and happiness?
Yeah. The first habit I tell people they have to learn is patience. We have to realize in this, in the 21st century, when we think everything is so fast, growing your business or changing your body or having a good relationship. These things take time. So my saying is TTTT, right? These things take time, and realizing that, again, it's the compound effect. And while we know the compound effect, we don't always utilize it. So it's like really the first habit is patience. And then for me, I want people to set it up so they can't fail. Start with something so small like eating an apple, walking around the block, reading 2 pages, do a 5-minute meditation. There's so many little things that the cumulative result of the small thing is huge. And where people, I know in the United States, it's, New Year's Day and we're all going to stop eating chocolate and go to the gym. And it just doesn't work that way. So I want people, I tell them, pick one thing and do it for 90 days. And then pick another thing. And if all you do, Ash, is pick one thing every 90 days, something so simple.
Yeah.
In 5 years, you have amassed 20 positive habits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. And, it is so easy for us to do, take bite-sized milestones when we are forming our new habits. But my question is, you told me that when you started working out in the gym, you saw the results after 1 year. And you also told me how important patience is for your habit to start kicking in. What would you say is the process of forming a new habit, and how long would it normally take?
The research has been interesting over the years. It's shifted. They used to say 21 days, then they said 60 days. So, there is different bodies of research out there, but the initial research said 21 days. If you do something for 21 days, it becomes something you do without thinking. And that's the beauty of habits. We mostly think of habits as negative habits, right? Smoking too much, eating, drinking. But the beauty of a positive habit, again, it's when you start eating an apple a day and it becomes habitual, it's like something you do on automatic pilot. And the more things you have working in your favor than against you is the goal of this, right? So to really look at your habits. And the biggest thing I see people do is they give up when they're not perfect. You might work out for a couple of weeks and then you miss a week. So what? This is a lifetime. This is self-mastery. This is for the rest of your life. So, if you look at your month and you worked out 10 days out of 30, good for you. That's better than no days.
Yeah.
So it's being kinder to yourself, gentler, and just picking it back up where you left off.
Great response. And now when you relate these habits to the corporate world, how can managers and leaders use the principles of small habits to create a happier and more productive workplace environment?
Yeah, leaders play a very important role, especially in this century that we're in, where there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of pressure. And we've come to a point in the evolution of the planet where there's too much information coming at us and not enough time to decipher it all, right? The information's coming faster than we can process. So for a leader to really understand the need of time, giving their employees time to plan, time for breaks, right? You need brain space, and having a leader that recognizes this and promotes it and, gives people, time on their calendar to either, plan their next thing, think it through, these kind of things. And I call it, I think Tim Ferriss called in his book, being a time bully, where I like, realizing that what are the most important things you need to get done today, right? I always tell leaders, tell me the 2 most important things you need to get done today and do it by noon. Or instead of trying to do everything. So leaders really play a role in kind of leading by example, and then knowing when their employees are just, we just think if you push it harder and go hard, you can't, if you ran your car without putting gas or giving it oil, you run it into the ground. And the leader really needs to see when his people are doing this. And I had a wonderful mentor early in my career. I was working really hard. And I'll never forget, I was on 42nd Street in Madison really early in the morning. And my boss called me and she said to me, Michele, you haven't taken a day off. You've been training X amount of days in a row. When are you going to put a day on the calendar? And I went, what a great boss? Who
Mm.
doesn't want a boss that cares about your mental health? So that's how leaders can really make a difference.
Wonderful. And my next question is, how important is one's environment in supporting the formation of new habits? And what adjustments can people make for better habit formation?
Yeah, get around the people that have the habits you want. I
Okay.
would say if you're eating with if you're hanging around with the fast food crowd, you're eating at the fast food restaurant. But if you're hanging around with the healthy crowd, you're
Mm,
eating healthier.
mm,
So, really choose your influences and realize they have such a profound effect, and make sure the people you surround yourself with are challenging you to be better,
mm,
right? I was away with some fabulous women a couple month ago, and they're just these fabulous business women that when I'm with them, I feel like, oh my gosh, I want to be better because they're
mm,
doing so well.
mm,
So that when you talk about environment, I think about the people who affect you, but also, just having a space. When you come into your space, it should feel good to you,
mm.
right? You're in, like, you have the beautiful map behind you, and I'm sure that makes you feel fabulous. And I love my, my pretty picture back
Mm,
here. And so,
mm,
you know, it, I talk a lot with my clients about feeling. It's not just about thinking. We try to think our way through everything, but it's connecting your head to your heart
yeah.
and saying, when I do this activity, how do I feel?
Mm,
If the treadmill is boring, do something different.
correct.
Find something that feels good as well. So that changes your environment.
Mm. And you
Is
know
that what
what?
you meant? Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. No, great response. But you've been speaking about positive habits. My question is, how do small negative habits impact our lives over time? And what strategies would you suggest to break such negative habits?
Yeah, there's interesting research too that if you haven't, so sometimes you get in a habit of a candy bar at 4 o'clock, right? It's kind of your thing. And I think when you really start to notice your habits, even when I was going through my divorce, I noticed I would drink a glass of wine and then I would drink another glass of wine. And then it's like you have to be smarter than that. And it's like, okay, this is not the road I want to go down. I'm feeling sad right now. I'm going through a hard time, but increasing my alcohol intake is not something I want to do,
Mm,
or having the candy bar at 4 o'clock. So
mm,
what I tell people, what they've learned is if you take 3 days, don't eat the candy bar for 3 days, abstain from drinking for 3 days, and it literally the chemical is gone from your body, so the chemical habitual response is over,
mm,
detoxing,
yeah.
so to speak, unless it's like something really serious.
Mm,
But then it's the brain habitual, like the brain kind of gets a trigger. Like if you ever notice you wake up at 3 a.m. one night, then the next night you wake up at 3 a.m. And it's like you have to be smarter. Our brains are so smart and fascinating. I say, Michelle, I'm going to not eat the candy bar for 3 days. And on the fourth day, also not, the craving is not as strong. It still might be there, but
mm,
I think it's slowing down, taking the pause, and then making a better decision.
mm. Well said. In your book, Michelle, you mentioned happiness as a habit. Uh, can you help us understand how individual can cultivate happiness through daily rituals?
Yeah, it's interesting. Happy people don't have perfect lives. I think
Mm,
that's the misdemeanor. They think, oh, everything goes great for you. You're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. They have the same, we live in the same world.
correct.
The coping skills are different.
Mm,
I call it the optimistic spin. And this has been proven through Martin Seligman's work as well. It's optimists and pessimists look at life differently. So where a pessimist might lose their job and they think the world's over, and then they go home and they drink a beer and they eat a bag of potato chips and they, are mean to their family.
mm,
The optimist loses their job and says, okay, this is not ideal, but I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to make some new recipes for my family. And they don't let it affect every other thing in their life.
mm,
What the research has shown us is optimism can be learned.
mm,
So happiness, it's like I was listening to Swami G, so he's in my head.
mm,
We think it's going to be the next promotion or the next car, the next whatever. And the research shows that that spike in your happiness only lasts for about 3 months.
mm,
And then you go back. So the true happiness comes from really being satisfied where you are right now in this moment, and still a little hungry for more, right? We always, as human, we're
mm,
human beings always want to grow. It's
Correct.
in our nature to want more, to grow more. Look at you. You've had an illustrious career and you're still out here giving and going
Mm.
because it's in our nature.
Right.
So being happy where you are and finding something to be grateful for where you are and then wanting more. So happiness, again, I always say to my clients, I'm going to leave you with this last thing. A couple times a day, I want you to ask two questions. How am I feeling? And am I happy with my results?
Mm.
If you're feeling okay, satisfied, you don't have to be feeling over the moon. I'm just
Yeah.
feeling I'm okay and I'm
Mm.
happy, then you're in a good space.
Mm.
And then those moments of joy come and go and they're whoops, fleeting.
Mm.
But it's just really tuning in and slowing down.
Mm. Well said. The other question that I've often wondered is that how can individuals tailor habit formation strategies to fit their unique lifestyles, schedules, and goals? All of us have very, very different schedules, and our goals are also very different.
Love this question so much because I find here in the, I can only speak in the United States, people just sometimes we want the menu.
Mhm.
Tell me how much I can eat at 11 o'clock and how many, minutes should I be in my target heart rate? And I try to make it so simple. In my book is 44 habits,
Mhm.
and I want you to customize them. I always say, look for the ones that resonate with you, and then you customize them, right? If journaling, you like to journal at night or you want to journal on the weekends, I like to journal in the morning. You
Mhm.
have to think about what works for you and then try it. I always say, try it on for 30 days and you be the judge.
Mhm.
And really customizing. And this is where feeling comes in again.
Mhm.
I ask my clients if please, I want you to practice journaling for the next 30 days.
Mhm.
But I want you to notice, connect how you feel on the days you journal versus the days you don't.
Mhm.
And you can use that with anything on the days you work out, on the days you meditate, on the days you read. So when you start connecting your feeling, then you go, oh, this is something beneficial to me. So even though maybe I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym, I know when I do it, I will feel better the rest of the day. So it's really, again, I don't tell anyone to take anything at face value. Don't take anything I say for, gospel.
Mhm.
You try it on and you gotta, and think about where can I fit it in my life, even if it's a micro,
Mhm.
5-minute meditation at lunch or something.
Very interesting. And what would you say to someone who is skeptical about the impact of small habits uh, to transform their lives?
Yeah, to me, you have to have some kind of skin in the game.
Mhm.
I'm not one to try to convince the doubters. I always say I look for the believers.
Yeah.
And if you believe and you're willing to meet me halfway, I will meet you halfway. If you take 3 steps, I'll take 4. But if you don't take any steps, right? So I'm willing to share the knowledge, but then at some point you have to say, I'm willing to try it.
Mhm.
So that's what I would say. If you're being skeptical, it's up to you. Do you want to try it for 30 days? I'm with you. I won't do it for you, but I will cheer you on all the way.
Well said. And, for my viewers and listeners, can you think of a story, because you're also a coach, where while coaching, small habits made a significant improvement in someone's personal or professional life?
Yeah, so many good stories. I've had people, that have run marathons, started businesses, get published. And I think it's realized, like, let's talk about getting published. It's everyone, oh, it's so hard. It's steps. Everything's steps.
Mm.
Right? You put it out to some publishers, they say no, you put it out to some, and it's realizing that everything in life is a step and that, everything has a solution.
Mm.
So I've had clients, like I said, run marathons. I've had clients get married. I had a one woman who I loved. She was just this hot shot woman and she was doing so good at work. I was coaching her in her career and she wasn't married. She had a 12-year-old and she said, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. And I said, let's create a habit. Let's do a
Mm.
cup of coffee. It's as
Mm.
simple as a cup of coffee. So she said, oh, I could do a cup of coffee, right? It's so thinking of looking for a life partner sounds like such a big
Yeah.
task. But if we break it down into a little habit, I'm going to have 3 cups of coffee this week.
Mm.
And now she's, with a beautiful man and they have a beautiful new child. So again, it's really taking what your big goal is and even making decisions. I had a woman recently who just was like, I can't make decisions. My whole life is one bad decision after the other. I'm like, okay, we're going to make habit of everything you do is a decision, but let's start small.
Mm.
Decision to what you're having for lunch, the
Mm.
decision for if you're going to watch something on, Netflix tonight. So again, taking these big things where this woman said she made one bad decision in her life forever and breaking it down to these little tiny decisions
Mm.
where she starts to build the confidence and say, I am a good decision maker
Yep.
because I can tune into what I want and make a
Mm.
good decision. So there's lots of stories like that, just breaking it down to the simplest form and then building the confidence from there.
Fascinating. Thank you for sharing these stories. And my last question to you, Michele, where do you see the future of research in habits, neuroscience, and positive psychology heading? And what are you most excited about?
I am not a researcher, but I'm so excited that there's so many people out there doing the
Yeah.
research. I'll never forget the day I was sitting in a coffee shop in New Jersey when I read one of Martin Seligman's first books, and I was like, "Oh, there's research, right?" Like
Mm.
I've always been the person that believes in this kind of thing, but there was no backup. It was like positive thinking.
Mm.
And when the research came out, I just got so excited. I can't stop reading the books, and I'm excited for what the researchers come out with
Mm.
next. Now, right now, I'm reading Adam Grant's Give and Take, which I've read
Mm.
already, but I'm going to give some workshop on it next week. And the research is just fascinating. And I think for anyone who has doubts, if you pick up one of these books, your doubts will be, you'll realize that there's more to it than meets the eye.
Well said. So, one more question I wanted to ask you, and you've given us a lot of very interesting thoughts on habits. But for our listeners, what is one small habit they can begin with that could have an immediate positive impact on their happiness or their performance?
Yeah. I talk about morning gratitude, but even more importantly, it's before you go to sleep at night. So many people here say they can't sleep. And I think because they have poor habits. And, first of all, telling yourself you can get a good night's sleep and really disconnecting from your day, and whether it's a meditation or a prayer or whatever you decide to do at night, and having gratitude, for the littlest things, gratitude for your pillow, gratitude that you have a blanket, gratitude that you're in a, house or whatever. It could be so simple. And then every night I just say, thank you for this day. Thank you for the things that went well. And thank you for the lessons. And I always say, I ask for good dreams.
Mm.
Please give me good dreams. Please bring me knowledge in my
Mm.
sleep.
Mm.
Please help me wake up feeling refreshed.
Mm.
And the habit of almost, I call it like setting the table. When you're going to have a holiday, you, before your family and friends come over, you set the table. You put on a beautiful tablecloth, you put on beautiful dishes and flowers because you're anticipating a good day.
Right.
The same thing before you go to sleep. Anticipate a beautiful night's sleep.
Mm.
Anticipate that you're going to wake up refreshed, and set the stage, set the table for sleep so that when you wake up in the morning, your first thought is of gratitude. And this is something every single person can do.
Absolutely. What great piece of advice, and you're so right. If you keep telling yourself, I can't sleep, you won't be able to sleep. But if you tell yourself, I have no problem sleeping, you'll be out like a light. But on that note, Michele, thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey. Thank you for speaking to me about your book, Power of Small Habits. I think we covered a lot of ground on how important it is for us to develop small habits, which can then become part of our normal routine, or normal daily life. And the power of these habits, as you said, will take a little time. But once they start to kick in, if I can use that term, then you will suddenly realize how important and good they are, both for you personally as well as professionally. Thank you again, Michele, for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.